Alright, this problem appears on the digital SAT. A lot of students struggle on this because conversions are tricky and people want to take shortcuts, and it's very tempting to take those shortcuts. So go ahead, pause the video, try this on your own now. Alright, if you did do that, we're back. Most people choose B, and they do so very confidently. But B is not the correct answer. So let's talk about why B is not correct, and even more importantly, what a good workflow is to go through a question like this that's all about conversions. Now, first, you can tell that this question is about conversions because in the parentheses there it says 1 mile is equal to 1760 yards. That's a pretty big clue that we're going to have to convert things. So every time you see something like that on the SAT, you need to get your very linear, structured brain going as much as you can. And for these, you want to write out, we've got our 5.14 square miles. So we'll put another way to write that is with miles and then the little 2 up there as an exponent, that is square miles. So then can you guess square yards? How could we write that out? Well, yards and with a little 2. So know that those do mean the same thing. And so then now what we're going to do, kind of like a chemistry class, dimensional analysis, I think it's really important when doing conversions to be systematic in how you set these up. Most often, I see students, they don't write anything at all on their paper. They just put it immediately into the calculator. And then they have maybe a 50% chance of getting it correct if it's a simple one where you're either going to multiply by the number or divide by a number. And then for one like this, they're almost always going to get it wrong if they put it directly into the calculator. So it is, I know it's a time test and people get freaked out about, I didn't think I have enough time to write it all down. Well, it's not that strict on time to the point where you can't do a good job, be thorough on your problem. So anyways, with all that said, I like to think about that this is the value that we're starting with, or the units really that we're starting with. We're starting with miles squared, right? Our goal units, what are our goal units? Well, it says, what is the area in square yards? So our goal units are yards squared. So I have to figure out how to get from miles squared to yards squared. So I know that in order to do that, I need to divide out the miles squared. So those are going to go in the denominator. And I need to multiply by yards squared. Okay? And that will get rid of the miles squared here and create the yards squared in the numerator, which is what our answer is supposed to be in. So now we have to figure out what numbers correspond to it. So this is kind of the setup, right? Is work with your units first and then figure out what numbers you're going to use, not the other way around. Okay? The units are more important than the numbers at the beginning of the problem. And so then now what you could do is you could write in, well, I know that it says 1 mile is equal to 1760 yards and call it a day. But let's really think about this. It says 1 mile is equal to 1760 yards. But our conversion there has these square things, right? It has those 2's. So that actually is going to be that 1 mile times 1 mile is equal to 1760 yards times 1760 yards. That's what's actually happening here. So we actually have 1 mile squared, and I could show that that was a 1 squared, if you'd like, is equal to 1760. That number is squared if the units are squared. So if ever you see the units are squared and your conversion factor is not squared, you're going to have to square your numbers. Otherwise, you're going to get this question wrong. Okay? That's a very messed up looking one, but I assure you that is 1 in the denominator there. And so then now if you were to use a calculator, which is what you should be doing for a question like this at this point, you're going to put into your calculator 5.14 times 1760 squared. Make sure the square is only applied to the 1760. And you're going to end up with this number down here, answer choice D. It should be a big number, right? Because yards squared is very different. Yeah, as far as like how big they are relative to miles. Okay?